What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Couple Things,
With Shawn and Andrew.
a podcast all about couples.
And the things they go through.
Buckle up for this one.
Golly, I think this was our longest interview, and we could have talked for twice as long.
I want to move in with them for a solid week and just get to know them even better.
John and Ash Marsh from
Yes.
Opelika, Alabama. He calls it Hope-You-Lika, Alabama. But
He was filled with hysterical puns and one-liners.
he has more one-liners than anyone I've ever met, and we've met a lot of people.
Yes.
I've never met any couple like John and Ash Marsh, but their story is incredible. They talk about addiction. They talk about fighting through affairs. They talk about
divorce,
separation, a lot of heavy topics.
a lot.
Approached with an attitude of hope, and I found that really encouraging.
If I were to select one couple who, in my eyes and mind, would be the reason we started this podcast, it would be them.
Tell me more.
I have shared before that I got so tired of the world painting marriage and relationships as needing to be perfect in order to succeed. Whereas I see marriage is hard and you go through a lot of things, and we are human beings and we make mistakes and we change. And their story of how they have worked so hard to redeem each other, to continually fight for each other, I thought was so beautiful.
Yeah. And if you're able to do that continuously through all of the faults and mistakes that the other person makes, there's something amazing about that.
There is. And to see their dynamic now, having gone through so much, was so beautiful. The respect for each other, the constant working to still be there for each other was really beautiful.
And they're also insanely talented and
Yeah.
successful business people.
Yes.
They have what they call a redemptive real estate business. So they take old towns like Opelika, Alabama, and will renovate them. So they renovated 280 buildings within 10 blocks of downtown Opelika to help save their city. So they make what was a washed up, kind of rundown village and turn it into a really interesting attraction, which I love. There's something that's paralleled to their story in that, I think, as well, with the redemption aspect of it.
They also do a lot of marriage work with couples where they do these intense kind of retreats and workshops with couples to help them reconcile and get through hard times in their marriage or in their life, which it just seemed like overall every single project they were working on was an example of their lives together.
Yeah. I mean, who's more qualified to do those workshops than them? They also have a ton of free tools that we can link down below, whether it be a family calendar, communication tools, and figuring out how each person communicates. They're pretty intentional. And so they've provided a lot of resources for you listening. If you want to learn more about their free tools or their marriage workshops or all the other projects they have going on, we'll link information down below. We first met this couple at the Generous Giving Conference, which we've now mentioned several times. And I heard their story. I heard them speak and what they've been through. And I immediately thought we have to have them on our show.
I heard you talk about them more than anybody else from the Generous Giving Summit.
And when you listen to this, you'll understand why.
You'll know why.
So we have a couple interviews that resulted from that conference. John and Ash are one, Greg Balmer is another, and I think we have a few others on the pipeline as well. So check those out. And without further ado, we bring you John and Ash Marsh. Well, I kind of want to just roll the mics, and I don't know how much you know about what we do or our backgrounds. We have backgrounds in athletics. Shawn was a gymnast. I played football much less successfully than Shawn did gymnastics. But then we've been doing this family lifestyle content for the past 8 years.
Right.
And we get asked all the time, Shawn has these adoring fans, these people that look up to her and really want her to give advice on how have you created this fruitful life? And we know nothing. So our goal has been to divert all that attention and curiosity and desire towards something more meaningful. And when we met in, what was that, March or April at the
Generous Giving?
Yeah, Generous Giving. Your guys' story struck me as, and your thoughtfulness and how you've constructed, your 5 Fs. You have the whole communication cards that I've been looking over. You have your your website and all these resources. I was like, I would love to have you two on. And just kind of, I know the conversation is going to go all over the place. I'm curious to hear what you guys do as a business, but also, outside of that as well. So
Well,
anyway.
we can give you, we've, of course, raised our kids. We're empty nesters now. We're grandparents.
Wow.
So we've got a 5-year-old granddaughter and a 2-year-old grandson. That's fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
We've been through the
That's her
transition.
grandmother name, by the way.
Darling, yeah.
Darling.
That's great.
And we went through the transition of building all 60 companies together over our marriage. We extravagantly belly flopped our life early on. So we've learned how to love and forgive one another, which if you want to know what marriage is all about, it's figuring out how to love and forgive. You can't build great marriages are built, not found. You have to pay the price to build them. It's like abs. Nobody gets them by accident. And things are tough to get. And if you got them, there's a lot of dang work to get them. And so we work hard to love one another. And we work hard to take the values we have and, show up. We have both of our sons work with us now, which has been an interesting, dynamic. We've had the interesting Ash's homeschooling 20 years, She suffered in that and did it. She had tons of gifts to do all kinds of other things and put a lot of her life on hold to love our boys and to do that. So that's big. And then now, we started loving our city, and now we're in 12 cities around America, stewarding about $2 billion worth of stuff, plus what we're doing in our town. And so we can talk about a lot of things from that standpoint. And then, just like how do you build we've spent a lot of time thinking about how to build great marriages, great companies, be, great lovers of one another. Like how many marriages do you know where they're the most excited they've ever been today? We'll be 31 years in December.
Wow.
So we've learned to love one another and been through a lot. So we'll share whatever.
I was going to say there's about 30 different topics there that we could do an entire episode on. Do you have any specific direction you want to go?
I kind of want to just start by let's hear the early days, how you guys even met, got married, and then those first few years of marriage. You mentioned the word belly flopped, but let's start from the beginning.
That's not even big enough. I feel like I wish I could give a better word.
I don't think you can because it'd be not PG.
Do we have to be PG?
No.
What is
bleep
PG?
it out.
Yeah.
So I actually, we met at a car stereo shop. John was living in Atlanta, Georgia, and he was a professional that did like these really big competition installations and such.
Really?
Yeah, really cool. And I love bass, so it works out.
Nice.
But that's not why I was there. I actually came there because I had bought my first car. I was 18 years old, and whenever I bought it, the gentleman told me the speakers weren't hooked up, is why the radio didn't work right. So he told me to go see Big Jimmy. Big Jimmy, I'll take care of you. I'm like, okay, sure. So I go down to Big Jimmy's, which is Jimmy's Car Stereo. And he calls up John, as he calls him. John, come up here and help this girl. And so anyway, he comes up, and I'm just like, dang. He was so cute. So anyway, I don't even know if he noticed me then too much. But
I did notice that. You know what I said to myself? That lady's like royalty without a crown. She had a built-in class that you don't see much. I'm telling you, you can see that. Wow. When I saw her, I said, something so different about that lady. She was pretty too.
Wow.
Whoa.
Makes me blush. So anyhow, John comes back up and he's like, you don't have any speakers. So there's nothing to hook up. So Jimmy's like, put speakers in her car. I'm charging this dude. So anyway, that's it. That was how we met. And months go by, and Jimmy ends up challenging John because he doesn't like John's current girlfriend that's living with him. Her name is Kim at the time. And so anyhow, he's like, John, I need to help you find wife material because she ain't wife material. Mm-hmm. And so I would come into the shop periodically, and he finally said, hey, Ash, how about I hire you to do my bookkeeping for me? I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever, Jimmy. And he kept putting us together, to do inventory or to run errands or to take something to the bank or anything he could do to shove us in a car or a room together. Mm. His wife, in the meantime, was telling us we're going to go to hell in a handbasket. She would stand on her soapbox all the time, like you're just sinning beyond measure. You're just all
You're going to hell.
Yeah,
that's what she'd tell me almost every morning. I was like, I'm getting so tired of hearing this. I said, first, I don't think I'm going to hell, but I'm sick of hearing about it.
So she always kept kept a close eye on what we were doing together when we were together, which we weren't doing anything but running errands. But Jimmy finally, he's like, "Hey Ash, I got a challenge for you." He's like, "I like you a lot, and I don't like John's girlfriend." I'm like, "Okay." He said, "I want you to go out with John." I'm like, "Yeah, no, I don't mess with guys that have girlfriends." And he's like, "So you don't think you can get her? I mean, get him?" And he said, I said, "What do you mean? Yeah, I can get him. I mean, look at me. I'm a little Alabama girl, grew up in a mill village. I mean, I'm the only girl in my family 20-something years. I mean, what are you talking about?" He said, "I bet you $500 you can't get him away from her." And I
my
said, "You're on,
gosh.
fat man."
That's how we
So I
got
won him
together.
on a bet.
Wow.
That is a
And
totally
he
true
paid.
story. And he paid me.
It's like,
He was a mentor of mine. I was living in Atlanta, and I've never had a real job, but I've always installed. That time I was installing high-end car audio. I got really interested in it at 14 and apprenticed for a year, and then from 15 on, I mean, I was making $1,000 a week after school putting in stereos, and I thought, man, it was incredible. And he said, "Hey, move to Auburn, and you'll make more money than you ever made in your life." I said, "Sounds like a good plan." So I had a little shop behind him. He'd sell the equipment, I'd put it in. But when I met Ash, I just thought, wow, she was in a tennis skirt and tomboyish kind of, but had a ponytail. And she was, but as you can tell, she's a classy lady. And really, I tell my boys, I said, "Man, I see potential." I said, "I saw your mama." They don't give me any credit for it. They said, "You got her because somebody bet." I said, "Nah, I won your mama." And I said, "She was young and not that smart back then." I talked her into it. I said, "You know, our oldest he's a real smart boy, and he's 8 years old, so he's really a genius. He graduated high school at 14, went off to college at 15,
Oh my
graduated at
gosh.
19 in organic chemistry, physics, and fine art. So he's got this amazing mind."
Dang.
But this little 8-year-old boy is like, "Hey, Daddy, how did you get Mama?" I'm like, what do you mean, little pal?" He's like, "She's so hot, Daddy. You're so not." I said, "You better focus on sales, little buddy. That's the only way you get a girl like this." And I false advertise
That
kind
is
of,
very true.
and I
There-
told her she was going to be everything. And I'm high energy, low IQ, which is a powerful combination. And I just put that thing on her. I was just making. I played. Didn't even know she played the saxophone, but I put that Kenny G on. Oh man, that's old school right there. That
He
thing
would have
worked.
me over and play Kenny G. I was like, "Oh my God, he loves saxophone too." And then he would just talk
Sit
to me
and
for
talk
hours.
and look at her. Love listening to your voice. Till after she moved in, it's like, okay,
Check.
I gotta go get something else.
And got the girl. Check.
How'd you propose, John?
How did I propose? Well, I took her back to the first place we had kissed, and it was really my whole thing until my life changed. I was an idiot, and I mean not a little idiot, but a big time idiot. So I just messed up all kinds of things. We were laughing the other night about our anniversary date because we're coming up on 31 years. But how I set the date is I thought I was putting our date on my mom's birthday so it'd be easy to remember, but I didn't tell Ash that, and I missed the dang date. So now I got two to remember, and I didn't get the benefit of putting it on the date.
And you
so
got them
I
mixed up the first
Yeah, I got a little
almost
mixed
decade.
up.
It was
Dang.
good stuff.
So then, if you don't mind me asking, you get married, and then 4 years into marriage, you say you belly flopped.
It's actually a little bit sooner. We were pregnant when I was pregnant with Nelson, our oldest.
Got pregnant on birth
I
control.
found out I was pregnant 4 months in, and we were having already talks of divorce and everything. So I called to make appointments for an abortion many times because I was just at the point where they would still do kind of like partial birth abortion and everything. And every time I would get up to the appointment time, I would cancel it. But we actually went through our divorce when Nelson was right at 2. And we reconciled shortly after that. Not extremely shortly. There was things that happened in between that was very devastational. But I would say by the time Nelson was into 3 years old, we were reconciling and working on our marriage with God in the center.
So you got married, and then how soon after you got married did you start talking about divorce?
Oh gosh, months, maybe
Yeah.
6 months.
We had lived together a little while, and one thing about it, if you don't, the thing we realize about conflict is normal, it's neutral, and it's natural. It's what you do with it. But if you don't heal it, it's nuclear waste in the basement. And every conflict you have is not just hysterical, it's historical. In her mind, she whipped my butt in a historical battle take me back to current. The first thing I did wrong and bring it up to current. And all you can do is holler in that environment.
Yeah.
So what happens is you talking about microwave popcorn, and next thing you're fussing about yo mama and remember when, and so that stuff builds, and the conflicts kept building, and the lack of trust. When you build something on a broken foundation, remember there's got to be a death before a resurrection. Something's got to die before something can live. I mean, it's a seed principle, and it's a principle, and when we belly flopped, what happened is I didn't lead my family in the way I should have. Ash loved me, but then the minute she said I do, I made a mistress out of work. And I was searching for identity by making money. And so I put her on hold and ignored her for years. At least for, after she moved in, so probably 2.5 years. And
Right.
it just really spiraled. And, then you get to the point where really your just kind of goal is to disappoint one another at a rate that each other will stand. And it's no longer about, I love you and I want to be with you and this is amazing. It's like, how do we manage conflict? Say, imagine that pretty soon you have so much conflict you shove under the rug that the rug doesn't touch the floor anymore. And that's the way it was. We could only talk about the weather.
Well, and it's amazing how powerful we are as parents to model in front of our children how to truly have good conflict, because it's going to happen. And actually, it's something that can create more growth in a relationship than damage it if you know how to have, the right or constructive conflict, I guess you could say. He grew up in a home that he never saw his parents have discord at all. I grew up in a home that it was constant discord. And never in either one of the homes did we see any type of reconciliation.
We'd never seen it.
They seemed to say married because it was what, yes, they agreed to and made a promise about, but it was more about maybe the generation that they grew up in. It was just, it's what you do, and so we didn't have a model in front of us. So we were determined when we reconciled, it's like we were going to absolutely live out in front of our boys what God has for us, all of it.
We're not going to hide anything. We're going to show them, because it's more important, that they know how to have patterns, make choices, understand, resolve conflict. And how do you deal with this stuff? What about when one of you can change, you could change, and you should change, but you won't change? How do you deal with those things in marriage, And even learning how to love one another is not intuitive, right? I mean, I thought if I grabbed her butt and told her she was hot, that she'd think, man, this guy loves me. That didn't work, amazingly. There's a lot more to it. I used to think like, hey,
women in
marriage.
general like that.
Right.
Grab
I still
that way.
do it, but I know now I'm not building my whole thing on it. I didn't stop. I just added more stuff. But, if you think that, I thought marriage was about sex and supper. And as long as those two were cruising, I thought, this thing's working. One of those stopped, start going, what's wrong? That's so broken. I mean, we have to have models, right? We have to understand, like, if you want to find a new Ford pickup, you better know what one looks like. So what does a great marriage look like? Like, what do you long to have inside this relationship? It's the most important relationship in the world and the hardest one to do.
Yeah.
You normally marry your compatible opposite, and lots of times the defecation's hitting the ventilation. There's all kind of things going on, and I didn't even know what to do. I mean, I was just like, this is the dumbest thing ever. I said, I can get something done at work, come home. It's like I felt like I'd strapped myself to the Unabomber, because she would make these decisions that I thought were crazy. Well, she was trying to hold our family together, trying to do what was right, but I was just... one of the first things I told her, and her and I talked about this recently, she said, you're not going to tell me what to do. That's what I told her early in our relationship. So I set us on this course.
Well, how do you feel now? Like instead of saying, you're not going to tell me what to do, what's your perspective?
You're the most important person in the world, and anything that you don't want to do, we're not doing it, and I don't care what it is. She has absolute veto power in our life, and she's the most godly, trusted person in the world. My number one brainstorming partner, person I'd rather be with, and that's hard ground. It took a long time to get to where we could say that. I mean, the first 7 years, we just tried to survive, and I didn't love her, and she didn't love me in the beginning. After our lives was destroyed, at the time, what ended up happening, we go through this financial trouble. We're $1.5 million in debt in 2 businesses. We're $99,000 overdrawn. We're going through a divorce, and I go up in the attic of my house, hooked on meth, ready to hang myself. and got transformed. I mean, I wasn't even looking for that, guys. I was just I just kept hearing, kill yourself, take your life. And that wouldn't stop until finally I was in the attic of my house with a rope up there fixing to jump and hang myself. And to be honest with you, I wasn't even afraid of that. What I really ended up doing was getting down on that old plywood floor and started crying out to a God I never met before.
How does that happen in an instant?
Dude, I don't know. I mean, I was there, but it's like I got struck by lightning. Honestly, what was so wild to me, I was telling somebody the other day, I said, imagine like you're a syringe and everything that you've suffered, everything that you did wrong, all those hurts, the burdens, the things you think about when no one else is around, the weight, like you're weighted down from the bottom of my feet to the top of my head. It all got pushed out. 2 solid hours, I couldn't lift my pinky off the floor like it weighed 1,000,000 pounds. And I got up for the first time in my life ever set free. And for the first time in my life, love got past the fence. And I went right down the stairs, got back out of the attic, went down the stairs, found her. I said, man, I just got born again. She's like, no, you didn't. I said, I'm not serious. I did. She's like, you're a liar. And walked off.
But you're a mess on this point. So
dude, I wasn't after that. No, but I mean, I didn't quit drugs. They quit me that day.
Yeah.
Boom, straight. Now, I don't think that happens. Like, there's a million things I've had to walk out slowly and through discipline and suffering, learn how to live with, right? But not that one thing.
Wow.
I was set free that day, and I tell you what, I committed that I was going to love her all the days of my life, no matter what. If there was 1/1,000,000th of a chance I could get her back, I'd take it. So I did. I stuck with it.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp.
A common misconception about relationships is that they have to be easy to be right. But sometimes the best ones happen when both people put in the work to make them great. Shawn and I's relationship has not always been easy, but we're both committed to each other and make the daily choice to make our marriage work. Therapy has definitely helped us with this and can be a great place to work through the challenges you face in all of your relationships.
Yes, therapy has been a game changer for us as a couple and individually. We've been to therapy many times over the years, and each session we walk away with a new perspective. While therapy can definitely be helpful in stressful seasons, it can also be good for relationship tune-ups and to learn how to better communicate with each other.
I agree. And a great way to try therapy if you've been considering it is through BetterHelp. It's all online and suited to your schedule. All you do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Become your own soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. Visit BetterHelp.com/EastFam today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/EastFam today. We'll link it down below, and let's get back to it.
I feel like your guys' story obviously has a happy ending, so it's beautiful. But
We're just getting started, babe.
I know.
You haven't even...
No, I know. But it's literally the reason we started this show is we both got so frustrated at seeing either princess fairy tale in the news or absolute devastation and divorce. And there was no other option. There's no in between. And we would ask for a couple of friends of ours for like advice who had been married before. And they're like, I've never argued with my husband. And it's like, okay, well, that's not us. So I need to go searching for another one. And the next one would be like, well, we argued, so we aren't together anymore. And I think something so beautiful is we are believers that marriage is very hard. Mm-hmm. And you will go through in your life the hardest things. But it's marriage that redeems you and keeps you accountable and brings you back, even in the lowest of times. But my question is, like you said, you don't know how you had that lightning shock, but how do you rebuild from devastation and rebuild trust and rebuild just your entire life together when it's all been broken down?
You know, I felt like it was this, I said, I started thinking, if it's going to be healed, imagine that your marriage is a vase and you throw it on a concrete floor and it shatters into 1,000 pieces. Oh, God's going to put this thing back together. So it's going to look like crap. It's going to be all glue. Mm-hmm. But I didn't realize he wanted to build something totally different with the same stuff. So what you had before has to die and go away. And I do know this. I finally got to the place where we think people change when it hurts too bad and costs too much, when they know enough or they want to, or when the pain of changing is less than the pain of staying the same. And for me, I got to the end of myself. I got to the place where the life I was living was not worth living. And the lie is take your life, but the real truth is lay your life down. The lie is kill yourself, and the truth is die to yourself. This perverted truth that makes us want, it's the right idea, but the wrong action with it. And so when I come back down, to be honest with you, she didn't want me. And I understood that, you know. It took a while. First, I said, well, I guess I got the best chance of dating her of anybody. I think I'm going to go ahead and be the kind of man she'd like to date.
Yeah.
Even though we're going through a divorce, we had to pay for a divorce we didn't get. Those dang attorneys still made us pay. So even once we reconciled, we hated each other, but we reconciled so two different people wouldn't parent our son.
If I could add to that.
Please.
I believe that one of the things that was key to us having success was in the very beginning, we did have amazing, really godly people around us by God's providence. But the questions that we got asked in the very beginning was by a pastor at a Baptist church there in Auburn. And we got invited to this church, and we would cuss each other out like you have never seen. We would make a lot of people blush with how we could talk to each other. And we would pull up in the parking lot and just like slam the door and go in, and then just like smile it up. You know? But we would go in the young newlywed adult, you know, Sunday school class or whatever, and they would do prayer requests. And, you know, John would raise his hand and be like, ooh, God, please pray for us. We hate each other. We cuss each other out all the time.
She called me the F word like 4 times in the parking lot. And they were like,
you ever had, you know, if you take like the whole thing, you put like a pepper in a dish, you drop a little Dawn in it, it goes all scatters, you know, that's what it was like. The chairs moved. I mean, we were like plagued. And then people would be like, unspoken. And so, which I don't like unspoken prayers. I think they're bogus. But anyhow, we had a pastor that really, truly was a loving, kind man. And he would see us struggling through these things. And one day, I think when he finally had his moment where he could get us alone and he knew we would listen was when we were up on the front row at the end of service. And we had literally, I mean, we were like kids, like punching each other, like, you get off of me, F you know, the whole time during service. It was like craziness. And so anyway, we're sitting up on this front row and we're waiting for him to get through talking to all 1,500 of his parishioners and, you know, praying for them and loving the babies and everything. And he's like, you two in my office. And we're like, great, here we go, you know. And so all he asked us was, he said, Ashley, do you want to follow God no matter what? Even if he does not, will you follow him? I said, yes, sir, I will. And he asked John the same question. And then he sent us to someone else.
he said, okay, gave us a card and said, see you later.
He said, I have
can't help you."
never had these struggles in my marriage, and I cannot comfort you in the way that you need comforted. And I think one of the key things is getting around people that have walked through what it is that you are trying to survive and what you're trying to have actual hope in. And and he sent us to a couple that had, John can share that situation that they had in their marriage, but he knew who to send us to. But I think the key of that, before we even got to that place, was the fact that it was an individual walk with God. It wasn't us. It was me and God, John and God. We obviously were one under the covenant with God because we chose to be married and have that covenant. But God looks at us as individuals, right? You're responsible for your own choices. That's not on your husband and it's not on your wife, the choices that you make individually. And so we had to get our eyes on God and quit putting them on each other because we made each other's little gods. If you do that, then I'm expecting for him to make me happy. I'm hoping that he'll show me that he's trustworthy. I'm hoping he'll prove he's not a liar, and he's thinking the same things about me. Well, if I got my eyes on God, I don't have to worry with that. I don't have to manage that. God is fully sovereign to take care of that.
Well, and you know, in relationships, you chase somebody, they chase you. It's like this. You know, I mean, in the beginning, I chased Ash. Then after she said yes, she chased me. And then she said, hey, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. I'm going to go, I don't want to be with you anymore. So then I chased her. We realized if we're both chasing the common thing and not chasing each other, there's healing. We get closer together and closer to the thing we're pursuing. And we had to learn this. The couple that taught us, they had been married 15 years. He cheated on his wife 13 years of that time in front of her.
13 years he did.
Of the 15.
Wow.
And she couldn't leave him. She was in a bad situation. They had, I think, 3 kids. Then he finally just left her and married another lady. God, get a hold of that guy and brought him back home, and they reconciled him. For the next 12 or 13 years, they helped couples like us reconcile. So it took us 7 years of counseling, slowly by slowly, to find one another. But there's a lot of pieces along the way, like how do you learn to love one another again? Like what's the starting place for that? How do you forgive one another? And what is forgiveness, honestly? If it's so easy, how come we can't seem to get the thing done? And what does that mean? Just the pieces to it. But I wouldn't want somebody who can't swim teaching me how to swim. Mm-hmm. And I don't want people that hadn't walked through hell in their marriage trying to teach me how to go through it. Because we went to a lot of counselors, and I just finally started telling them, all they'd say is, oh, my God, you're so messed up. I said, I am not paying you if that's all you say. Yeah. You got to give me, like, something to help me here.
Yeah.
And we were just broken.
So John Marsh is, he said, making a mistress out of work. He's going through a lot of,
addiction and all the challenges with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand concurrently about the same, is it the same time that you're going through I remember a piece of the story of like the abortion, lost baby. Yes.
Okay, so when I met John, I did not know that he was a drug addict at all. I didn't know he did drugs. He did it really well. Honestly, didn't know until after we reconciled that he was a meth addict. Until actually he was given a testimony. But yeah, all at the same time. So all this is happening. Whenever he comes down from the attic and he's telling me this story. And he's telling me that, I'm going to follow God and I'm going to love you. And we're going to work these things. I was like, you're a liar. You've always been a liar, just a liar. I could not trust that he actually was the man he was saying that God had, was showing him he could be. And so I continued in my affair. I think that's what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And so I was still, continuing to stay in connection with this young man that I was having an affair with. And I think John might have known, honestly. Is that right?
About that time I did. What ended up happening is we were in business. I was in the automobile business at the time. We had a salvage yard and we built total cars for 12 years. Very difficult business. And the guy that she left me for was one of our employees, who happened to be one of our banker's sons. And so how I found out is our partner at the time, he had her followed, tried to blackmail her to be with him. When she wouldn't, he gave me the information. So that's how I found out.
Wow.
So John is one of the most determined people you will ever meet. He calls himself a blessing or a butthole. He's like a pendulum. It's either really here or it's really here. There's zero in the middle. So he is all on or all off, and he was all on for God. And once he decided that was it. And so he was going 100% forward with that. I didn't believe it, and so I was afraid. Like if he's like playing me or messing with me or doing this to hurt me more, which would have totally
or to get
been
custody of the kid.
Or,
the lawyers were sitting there going, "Well, yeah,
they're in
it's
your
going to be
ears
nice to
saying,
you, so he can get full custody."
And you have to remember, gosh, God bless anyone that has divorce lawyers, and they're going through all that. They're really good salespeople, and they're selling a product, and their product's divorce, and it's according to how much money you have, is according to how much your product's worth that they're going to sell.
And they're going to try to get as much of it as they can. Fast deals are not a good deal for them.
And so they're just in your ears all the time. So my lawyer was telling me, he's like, he's going to pull the faith card. They had already told me that. He's going to get saved. He's going to get in church because that's the good thing to do. Then he looks like the good dad. Then when you're in court, he's going to be the one that looks better than you. Don't fall for it, right? And so all this stuff's in my head. So anyhow, I continue in that relationship, and I'm playing like I'm being the wife with him, and I end up getting pregnant. And about 12 weeks into that pregnancy, I lose the child, and I did not know if it was John's child or this other gentleman's child. And that's what broke me. That was the place, that was the time that I was absolutely unable to even want to look at myself anymore. I thought I hated him, and then I was able to look in the mirror and see, like, really who you hate is not him. You hate yourself. And I had a similar experience. It wasn't in the attic. It wasn't suicide. It was desperation. It was anger. I spent a better part of an entire day screaming and crying and wallowing on the floor, so angry at God. Why would he let this happen to me? Why did he? All the things had to be his fault, obviously, right? And so when it finally got to the place that I could sit still and realize that it was just me, and for me to actually be able to say, I just surrender and I can't do anymore because I need to get away from me. That's whenever I knew I had the presence of God and that I was forgiven, and I asked him to forgive me, and that's what changed me. And I got up different, and that's it. That's all I did. And so I think a lot of people try to make that really difficult. God is such a precious, kind God. And one of the things that I practice now is the study of hospitality. And it starts in our home. And how can I bring hospitality to my most important relationship after God, which is my husband and then my children? And one of the things that God showed me is that he anticipated me. He thought of me before I got here. He knit me in my mother's womb. He said he knew me before the foundations of the earth. So he has been building and preparing for me for all of creation, all of time he has. And in this window of time, he already knows those thoughts that he had planned for me. And so all I have to do really is trust that anticipation with God and just relish in it, and then turn and anticipate John. And then in turn anticipate my children, and then give that to our clients, to our tenants, to anyone that I'm working with. It's like, how can I anticipate you? How can I actually truly think of you before you're in my presence? And so that came out of that moment of being with God, because what he showed me was just a picture in my mind of seeing almost like myself being in a position of being taunted and ridiculed, and the whole scarlet letter thing. Like that was all that was in my head, was
that
I will
happened
never
to
be
us,
worthy.
yes.
And that has a lot of truth to it. It's got a lot of power to it. I've definitely been more harshly judged for my acts and choices in the marriage than he has for his choices
From
from
people, like,
society.
We sat in church
society,
the first time we
yeah.
went back after that, and they said, I can't believe he's here with her. We could hear him. And we couldn't hardly find anywhere to fit because we're so darn screwed up. I mean, come in smelling like Pigpen in a way that with the problems you got. I mean, we just reconciled. We're trying to figure out, we're $1.5 million in debt. We're $99,000 overdrawn. We can't hardly figure out what in the world to do. We are so messed up. And who do you go to when you're so messed up? I mean, nobody gave us hope. They said, file bankruptcy, try to build a new life. Well, we didn't believe that's what we're supposed to do, so we dug in. Started doing rot repair on houses for $150 a day, and we're trying to make payments on that big note, trusting God. And over time, 7 years, we repented one check at a time, got to zero. Yes, zero! We thought we won the lottery. I said, man, this is awesome. We can do anything. I really thought it'd take us 30 years, no kidding. But then then the gifts started showing up that we have together. We started realizing how to love one another. I didn't know how to love her. So really the best question I ever asked her toward this was, what is the one thing I could do to show you I love you? The number one thing that I'm not currently doing. And I said, don't tell me 10. One. She said, don't throw sweaty socks on the floor inside out. I hate it. I said, you never pick another one up. Because every time you look at that laundry basket, you'll say, this guy's crazy about me. But we just little by little began to love one another. And love I think that question, and even for kids, it's like, what is the one thing that your daddy does that when he does it, you feel the most loved? Those things open doors if you'll do them, right? That's like a master key to the relationship. Say, here's how you make me feel loved. Well, do that. And I just went big on it. I just started trying to love her. And the most godly, beautiful, sacrificial person in the world that I know is Ash. There's no one like her. She's so far above everybody else in my eyes, it's not even close, because I've watched her live out all the stuff she says.
I think that's one of the
No. Well, just that definition of hospitality
Yeah.
has stuck with me ever since I heard you share that in Arizona. And I think it's the most beautiful thing. When you practice it, you're like, oh, that changes everything. I thought of you before you got here. So like there's a huge difference if Shawn wakes up and I'm like, oh, hey, good morning. Can I make you a cup of coffee? Compare that with like, here's your cup of coffee. Good morning, darling. That's a big difference of like, oh, these little signals of love of like, it indicates that I know Shawn. and her preferences and what she and the things that make her feel love. It indicates effort of like, I am trying here, which is a big thing sometimes in marriage, right? I think it's so beautiful. So thank you for that. But
It's really cool to make that connection because I wasn't able to make the conference, but I've heard him talk about that one line that he heard from that conference, and we've practiced it every single day since. So that's really cool. But it breaks my heart. I learned this from my mom, who experienced it firsthand in her church growing up. But that's why churches can be so frustrating, is they should be the safest place for the most broken people. And that's where they should be able to like build their foundation. But it's almost like the opposite. The most broken people get kicked out, pushed out, judged. And I don't have any other follow-up thought to that other than like, that is my biggest frustration with church.
Well, and I say church is somewhat like a crappy country club.
Big
Big dues and no fun for the most part. I said, dude, I went to him. I was like, hey,
dudes,
I was like, dude, where are the blind people and the lame people? They're like, we don't do that anymore. So I'm not sure I quit drugs for what you guys got going. I said, where's all the powerful stuff? They're like, we don't do that. I'm like, dude, I said, drugs were better than this. Yeah. And I'm not saying all churches, but I do believe it's one of the greatest self-improvement plans going. I mean, it's basically oftentimes self-improvement.
Well,
the sermons and things. It's not life on life.
It seems that it's contradictory of the testimony of Christ a lot of times. Because it's like this, it's an unspoken rule, right? If you behave, then you can belong and maybe you'll believe. And that's not at all what Jesus said. He's like, if you believe. That's what he started with.
Well, and the church kind of flipped the script. Right.
Behavior can come later. And he's not, honestly, I don't think, I might be saying something that might get people in trouble. I don't think God's so much worried about that. He's worried about your heart. Why you're doing what you're doing. I mean, we don't look at our kids and like when they're doing something totally crazy, which they do, the most unbelievable stuff that no one can ever think of. I imagine that God looks at us the same way. It's like, I
never thought you'd do that one. That's
stupid. That you had the capability, but and I know he knows all things, but it's just like, I'm sure we just like keep him chuckling, but we never look at our children as loving parents and wanting to steward them in a direction of growth and say, if you don't act right, you're out of here, like we don't do that. But God forbid if I do walk into, there are some places if you walk into it and they know that you participate in certain ways in your life, like you said, the dirtier, as we call it, the dirty sins. If you're a drug addict, if you're a prostitute, if you are an adulterer, if you're a pornographer, if you're all those things, it's like they have almost like this little bubble they want to put you in because they're almost scared they'll get it. Well, and it's not right.
We talk about this a lot, and it's been like philosophical debates that we've had. But something that I despise in our world and culture right now is there is a scale. It's like, well, I only like do white lies. That's it. But like you did this, so you shouldn't be allowed. And it's like it is all the same. Yeah, it's literally all the same. We are all just as broken as one another, but we live in this like judgmental society of like, oh, I'm so much better than you because I never did that.
Right.
When it.
Well, we love it because we bust it wide open. We say, "There's no way you're as screwed up as we are."
John was giving his testimony to one of our city officials one time, and he made the comment, he's like, what? Oh God, I'm so glad I don't need Jesus like that. John's like, I'm gonna pray for you that you do.
Yeah. Well, and it's probably people who say that kind of stuff that actually need them like just as much as everybody. Like we all, I don't know.
But honestly, I mean, it's challenging for me personally where it's like, the reason I'm so interested in your story is because like, man, addiction and affairs and all these things, it's like, wow. Gosh, I point to that. I'm like, well, I'm not doing that. But the challenging thing is like, but
we're all capable of it.
Like all of my brand of sin, my style is like right in there with it. So like, I do want to know, how do you recover a marriage from addiction, and how do you recover a marriage from an affair? Like just from a practical. Yeah.
Most people talk philosophical without being practical.
Yeah.
But one thing about it, addiction, so a couple of things. Number one, I believe we're all born addicts. We're just addicted to different stuff. If I was addicted to church or softball or work, people be praising me for it. But if you pick meth or something like that, they don't praise, or porno. So everybody's got the addictions running. You got to pick the good ones if you want people to like you. But what we realize, we're born to be addicts. We're addicted to all kinds of stuff, but we're supposed to be addicted to Jesus. And when you get that lined up right, because he's the one thing you can be addicted to, and there ain't no bad side effects. That thing works. And so first, if you're in addiction, they need to find something better. Like, what's something that you don't want to lose? And people think, well, just quit. Well, I never thought of that. I mean, think of it every day, all the time. This is so dumb. I'm just like, God, thanks for the great advice. You know? But you don't have, if you don't have something better, honestly. I mean, some people I've watched quit because of their children. Some people quit because of their marriage. Some people will quit because of their own health. Some people like me will quit because they fell in love with the creator of the universe. And the way he made me feel, nothing has ever made me feel like that before. I had longed to be loved and accepted my whole life. And once I got it, I didn't want to let go of it. Still hadn't. Just as shook up as I was that day today. And everybody doesn't have to be like that. I think some people, maybe it was a quiet moment. They decided, hey, I'm gonna turn my life over. But for me, I'm telling you, I needed something radical because I am radical. Like, whatever I'm doing. If I'm a butthole, I'm being a big one. I say I'm a blessing or a butthole. Blessing or a butthole. I just don't stay in the middle much. I just swing past that normal. And so Ash,
It's still a truth.
it's still a truth. I still go stupid sometimes, but we used to live like
It elevates our heated fellowship.
we call our fussing heated fellowship. And so we have heated fellowship often. But the blessing is we don't have yesterday's conflict. It doesn't have all the energy of everything that was broken from the past. It's just today's. So love, you got to learn to love one another. And that's preferring her above myself. And number two, I got to forgive. And forgiveness is not a one-time event. It's not a vaccination. It's a second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour choice of your will that will last a lifetime.
Say that again.
It's a second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day choice of your will that'll last a lifetime. You have to decide, it's like exercise. I'm going to do this from now on. Like, I started exercising, and we do 5 F's: faith, family, fun, fitness, and finance. And most people don't have a sophisticated plan for one of them, much less all of them. But when I started doing exercise, 46 years old, I started doing it. I got a plan. And I began to realize that the only language your muscle knows is time under tension, right? It doesn't know what you do. Just put me under tension, take it off, put me under tension, take it off, and I'll grow. Well, that's a bit like our faith, and that's like our forgiveness. Like, I still struggle to forgive sometimes, and I still bring up stuff sometimes. But when I do, we deal with it, and then we go on. Same thing with Ashley. We have to, forgiveness is an active thing, not a passive thing. But people, I did that. No, you're going to be doing that if you do it. Because you have to continually do it. Now, we used to live 30 days of hell and a day of heaven. Now we're like 30 days of heaven and a day of hell, but we're still pushing that thing back. Still have problems. Still miss one another sometimes, still get sideways. We just don't go to bed with it. That's one thing we don't do. And our bedroom is a sanctuary. We don't have a TV. We don't have devices, and we don't talk about anything except how hot I think she is, and how much I love her. We don't talk about kids. We don't do anything. It's the one place, when that door shuts, I never have to worry about the daggum it going sideways. Only thing going to happen. Now, sometimes we try to start, and boop, we're standing back in the hall talking outside our place till we get that thing right, then we go back in there. I think it's so funny. Sometimes our kids used to be like, they're standing in the hall. But now it's just me and her. We're this big old house by ourselves. We're standing there in the hall talking.
Weird. And they tell us to quit touching each other all the time.
Yeah, they're like,
"Oh
stop
my
messing with each other. I said, hey, your mama's hot, and I'm going to be chasing her, man. I said, I'm going to be getting all the good out of this thing. I said, this is a great relationship. I got a naked woman that's mine. This is, I always wanted one. I mean, as a little boy, you think, man, I'd love to have a naked lady.
Yeah, girls never think that.
No.
They want a naked guy.
Right. But I was like, man, this is awesome. This is so cool.
So one of the things that I had to do, because I had been in such a lie for so long, that I actually had to become self-accountable. And then I had to make myself overly accountable to John. And that's a choice of will, right? And it's hard. And you talk about marriage being hard. Those are the things where you have to be willing to do those type of push-ups. So I would be overly accountable to him. I would say to him, "Hey, I'm going to the store. It's 5:30. I will be back at about 6:15." And then I was. If I was going to be late, I would let him know I'm going to be late. So one time, the funny thing is that I was so accountable to every single thing that I was doing because I wanted him to know I'm trying. I wanted him to know I'm not disappearing somewhere that you don't know where I am, and you're in this angst wondering, is it happening again? I didn't want that to happen for me. If he made that choice on his own, even if I was being accountable, that was between him and God. But if it was up to me to be obedient to what God showed me, I was going to do those things. So I go to the grocery store one time though, the old Winn-Dixie. And I'm at the grocery store and these alarms go off and they make everyone evacuate the store. And so I'm like, I go outside and we're standing at the edge of the parking lot and all these fire trucks and everything are there. Nobody knows what's going on. Come to find out there was a bomb threat at the store. And so I'm obviously very late getting home because all of our stuff's inside, a buggy with our bags and everything. And so I tell him, it's like, I don't believe you. That's a bunch
Bomb
of
threat,
crap.
right.
You know?
Right.
And then the next thing you know, he sees on TV, it's like, dang, you were telling the truth. And so I have to practice truth. I don't have to do that now as much, but in the beginning, because the lies I had told were so many, I did not even know what I was telling, if it was true or a lie anymore. You get so deep in that you start making lies for the lies, and then you can't tell the truth. And he would sit with me. He's like, just tell me. I was like, I can't. I don't know how many layers down the lies are to get to the truth anymore. And it was a lot of work to do
We
that.
finally had to stop going. I didn't want to know every single thing that we had went through that was wrong. I just said, we're going to put every bit of that under a blanket of forgiveness. I'm not going to ask you questions and try to probe every single situation that we went through this devastation. Because if there's hope in your future, there's power in your present. And what we had to do is start building hope for a great marriage. Like, what's this thing going to look like? How are we going to live? What do we long to do together? And what most people do is try to deal with the past and keep looking in the rearview mirror instead of setting forward. You can do that a little bit, but you got to have something that's compelling for the future. Something you're willing to write checks with your life for, right? I mean, it's difficult. And like, so many marriages don't have a vision, they have division. It's two visions. And if you want to know if you're in a marriage that's divided, and most everyone is, all right, here's a simple way. Just take and say you got $10, 10 million, 10,000 left at the end of the day, month, week, whatever, and ask both spouses write down the number one priority for that money, number two, and number three. Specifically, we've never seen them be the same unless they've been doing the work. They'll be close sometimes, but mostly disconnected. But that doesn't work. You got to get that thing the same. You got to take the most important areas of your life and get unified on it, because a place of unity is a place of commanded blessings. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, Ash knows exactly what we're called to do, and she's going to wake up being able to do it. And that's uncommon.
So what's a worthy vision? You mentioned like, hey, people don't know what a good marriage looks like. Like, what is that? What's the vision?
Well, I think everybody has to work it out. You know, vision is a powerful thing. Vision is the answer for perishing predicaments. If you're in a mess, having a clear vision of the future that's compelling is an answer. But like for us, I mean, we want to leave a legacy on the hearts of men and women and not sticks and bricks. We want to create social, spiritual, and economic capital in a way that it's so radically done that people say something's different about these people. I mean, why would a couple do 300 properties, renovate them in 10 blocks in a city? Why would they invest 25 years in 10 square blocks? Why would they care so much? Like, why would they show up and only buy things that are broken and unwanted and unloved? Nothing that's a good deal, nothing that we can extract value. Everything we purchase, we have to add value to. We have to create the value. And it's because there's something about what we're called to do. And we know, like, if you got to figure out what you're here for. Most people don't understand their purpose yet. And it's not easy now. I'm telling you, I'm 52 now. I probably didn't know it clearly till I was in my maybe late 30s. But there's 4 things I do that when I do it is supernatural. When I help people grow personally, love God passionately, do good work purposefully, and live intentionally, it's little rocks in a shepherd boy's sling. That thing's going to work. And that's what I do. I get up every day and do that. And Ash taking over, we started 60 companies during our marriage. We only have 5 now, but she took over 14 of those 5 years ago to open up the door where I could do my purpose. And now she's using her gifts. This next season of our life is the most exciting we've ever lived. We're about to go big, bigger than we've ever gone on anything. And we're darn excited about it.
We're on our 3rd marriage, so
Yeah.
we have one of our mentors said that there's 3 marriages that you get to go through if you're blessed and fortunate enough to do so. The first marriage is whenever you first meet each other and you got a whole lot of, attraction, some lust, some good stuff going on, and that's your first marriage, and it's a lot of fun. And you're young and you're youthful and tight and toned and all the things. All right, you got to work as hard, right? You need to hold pizza and be like, yeah, it's no big deal.
No big deal.
And then the second marriage is whenever you start having responsibilities and, you have children, you have businesses. Maybe you might have some things you have to walk through with elderly parents or sicknesses and things. Yeah, you have to really be involved and engaged. The third marriage is whenever your kids have grown up, they're actually successfully doing the things that they're going to do. And then you're at home and you're with your spouse and you have a little bit more money, you have more time, you definitely have more wisdom, even if it came from doing all the stupid things. You definitely have more wisdom. And you now know how to see each other and how to live life together, and you can actually create a different third marriage than you could in your first one. And so we're in our third marriage, and it's awesome.
This is more of like an advice question, I think, than an experience, because I think you guys have spoke on quite a bit in different ways. But I feel like we live in a time where our generation and even younger believes in this, like, I don't know, everything's living your truth and making sure you feel it before you ever like act on it. Well, I don't know. It's all this like spiritual stuff, not godly, just like
it's spiritual though.
It's spiritual.
Of some sort, right.
But I've had a lot of people say that the only time that they would ever contemplate getting married is if like they meet this one who's just so perfect that they would never fall out of love. They would never lose that feeling because that's the perfect person for them. And it sounds like from what your guys are saying, I guess the question is, do you believe love is just something that is there, or do you think love is a practice?
I thought she was going to say that.
Oh, I did too, and he was about to get animated.
I was
about
just
something
go
that happened.
nuts.
He can tell you about that. It's a practice. It is absolutely a practice. I believe you practice yourself to get to the place that you get the appropriate type of goosebumps because you've actually learned to see your mate and you understand who you are well enough to be able to teach them how to actually love you. Mm-hmm. It's unfair to think that love is just a feeling of and butterflies in the stomach all the time, because those go away. Those go away when you are way too tired. I've been up too long. Whatever. I mean, I was homeschooling all day, helping run all the back end of these companies. He was gone all day, doing all the things he was doing. We were trying to come in the middle. I was like, I don't feel like talking about things. I'm much less having sex right now. And so it's like, so we're supposed to feel in love? Mm-hmm. It's like, no, it's a choice. If you choose to love and actually believe that God will bless that and you love the way God says to love, you don't have to recreate that. And then out of that obedience, it's almost like you start loving and seeing things differently in each other more through God's eyes. That's my belief. That's my advice to you, is that it absolutely is a practice. It doesn't just happen. Now, we had a great conversation about this, if you want us to share with you, and it turned into a great heated fellowship.
Yes.
All right, we got a little heated on the subject similar
One
to
of
this.
us
Some
did.
young ladies
Yes.
ask her some questions. But I would say about love, once I got my life changed, God got a hold to me. I asked him, I said, is love the high jump bar of what you expect of me? Am I supposed to be patient, kind, long-suffering, no record of wrongs, hopes all things, believes all things, trusts all things, not behave rudely? I said, if that's what you expect of me, I'm screwed. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to make it. Yeah. I can't even do two of them at the same time, hardly. And you know what I felt? No. That's not what I want from you. That's how I'm going to be to you. And if I give it to you that way, you can give it away. Mm-hmm. And so what I learned to do is receive love and give it away. We don't have a place to manufacture it or forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And so most people are capped by their willingness to receive love, to have it to give. And so it's really easy to give it if all you have to do is get your love tank filled up and then let it splash over on your spouse. But if you're empty, trying to manufacture stuff, in my experience, has been impossible.
Well, I have a question, but I do want to emphasize something you said that I've never thought of. Is I've always viewed love as an act of like something I could do for Shawn, right? Like let me be hospitable or whatever. But the act of the self-awareness of me, so I can help her know me. It's like that really struck me. That's not. I've never thought about that before. Of okay, I need to like know who I am well enough to know that like that's gonna make me have a short fuse, or that's gonna make me uncomfortable, or that's gonna.
It's harder than knowing your spouse. I mean, looking at your own dang belly button is crazy. I mean, I tell them, just do your own heart surgery. Oh, I can't do that. Well, now you see the troubles, right? I mean, like
Super
us, we
interesting.
have someone. We're excellent at helping couples, and I mean, we bring in high impact couples and do these 3-day intensives we do, which is really the culmination of 25 years of work to learn how to help people see one another. We just completed 2 of them in the last 7 days. But what I realized, that's one piece of it, but that isn't the meat of this thing. The meat of this thing is that you would desire to learn about yourself, because that's the limiting factor. You will not love your spouse more than you love yourself, and you will not forgive your spouse more than you forgive yourself.
So how do you uncap that receiving of the love?
You have to change identity. You have to ask if why are you worthy of extravagant love? I mean, think about this. If I had a personal financial statement believing what I believe, at the bottom of your net worth, you could just put Jesus, because that's what people like me cost. Right? You can know the value of something by what it cost. And I had to be. I know I'm extravagantly loved, and I can tap into that and receive it and give it away. But there's so many arguments. And one thing Ash said, that what these girls came to Ash and they said, tell us about soulmates.
said,
And
"Do
what
you
they're
believe
trying to
in
do is
soulmates?"
decide whether they could leave the ones they got. You know, a number of them. They were like, we're trapped in these things. We thought we were with our soulmate. Now we're not. I need a hot new soulmate. And so when she's talking about this, she's asking me about what I think she should say to them. Well, I'm not interested in what she should say to them. I'm thinking, if this lady don't believe in soulmates, I could be screwed. And so I said, well, I don't know. I just know when you find the person, it's the one. And then we started, and she's talking about these girls, and I'm talking about us. And the more she goes, the madder I
I
get.
was like, what is wrong with you? No, you have to know.
I was getting all hot. I was like, she'd be married to somebody else if I don't watch.
So John's definitely the more emotional one in our relationship. I'm more logical.
Yeah, I'm the wife in this thing.
Oh, that is me.
So typically, if I'm coming and asking a question, it's more of almost like a scientific gathering. I just want to know some information.
Just a
That is
thought.
Andrew always.
Data. I just want to know some data. It's like,
And I read into everything. I'm like,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's me. I'm like, what are you talking about, right? I was like, insensitive bunch of questions.
so much so. But that again, though, that's like I was saying just a minute ago. It's like if you know yourself, or if you start practicing learning about yourself, who does God really say you are? Not just those words that He says that we are, when He says that we're beautiful and we're heirs to the kingdom and we're saved and we're blessed and all those are truths. But I mean, like, how did He create you? Like, because how do we show up? How do we show up from our nature nurture choice? How do we show up like how we were made? That is a part of us that we cannot. There's no way you're going to get it out of you.
You're
It's
5 foot
just what
tall
it is.
guy. You shouldn't be in the dunking contest all the time. Or girl, you know. I mean,
Right.
you got to work with what you
We-
got.
So, and then the nurture is most of the time that's how we show up. That's the influencers that we have in our life, our family, our church, our friends, whatever we were really exposed to. And most of the time that's what we are imitating and showing. We don't even realize we're doing it. And so to do the self-work is being so aware of who you really are and how you're choosing to show up. And so knowing that, when I could see John was starting to get perplexed, I'm like, hey, I could stop and be like, I understand that you're seeing this side of me that is not like, I'm not reading to this at all. It's just scientific to me. I'm just asking a question. For me to stop and be like, you know what, I wasn't saying that about us. And I don't want you to read into that, because he believes magic. And that's, I love that about him. But, and so he does believe in the serendipity of we met this way. And I believe in the truth that we chose each other. And so it's like there's the two different feelings and beliefs.
She's a
right there.
thinker, and I'm a feeler. Okay, and 27% of all men are feeling men, and 75% or whatever it is, 25% are feeling men. 75% are thinking men. Okay. So it's hugely different. One thing that I love, Ash is always like the husbands when we're doing some counseling. She's like, yeah. She's like him with them. Thinking, I mean, she totes the pistol. She's got the concealed carry. She'll blow somebody's butt away if they get wrong. She drives. She has great directions. She handles the money. I'm like a high maintenance wife. I mean, I think she was born to. She said, "I love to serve." I said, "I love being served." What a great combination we have here. This is perfect, but it's fun to. We just think of, I mean, I feel my way to thinking and she thinks her way to feeling.
Right.
Okay, mamas, ladies. After having 3 babies, I never thought I would wear an underwire bra again until I found Skims. So right before I had Bear, Skims sent me a couple of maternity bras. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to wear maternity bras. They're so uncomfortable. They're not for me. I tried them on. They are the most supportive, most amazing, only maternity bra I have worn this entire pregnancy. On top of that, the material is so soft and the straps are adjustable for maximum comfort. And it fits every woman out there. They have a million sizes to choose from. My favorite Skims bra ever is the, quote, fits everybody t-shirt bra. And it's literally the best t-shirt bra I have ever worn. It's seamless, flawless, perfect. You're going to love it. If you're a fan of no underwire, the products I would highly recommend are the wireless form t-shirt bra and the no-show unlined demi bra. I like the color sand because you can't see it through white t-shirts, which is the color I usually go with, but they have a color for everybody. Whether you're pregnant, postpartum, nursing, or none of the above, and you just want a good bra, go to Skims. They've got one for everyone. Shop Skims bras at skims.com. Now available in 62 sizes, 30A all the way to 46H. Plus, get free shipping on orders over $75. If you haven't yet, be sure to let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select couple things in the drop-down menu that follows. Skims.com.
I want to, the idea of knowing yourself, like, I think looks a lot different under the heat of a marriage versus, you ever met like someone has a ton of money and they're able to like do all these like weird self-expression things. Like they know themselves in weird ways. Like you go to their house and they got like, you know, leopard print everywhere, or like they have too much money that they're able to go
To be
these,
eccentric?
yeah, but like in like their own quirky way. It's like, that's not what we're talking about, knowing yourself or like, you know, your self-expression. It's like, no, it's like knowing yourself in regards to being in community, right? And marriage is like a beautiful iteration of that. Like how do I respond to Shawn when she asks me something? Am I like annoyed? Like, you want me to do the dishes right now? Like, that's not good. That divides community.
Well, we
right?
put a number on each other's head. If you put a 10 on somebody's head, I tell people, I said, imagine if you felt the same way about your spouse that you feel about whoever, Elon Musk or whoever you think is cool or great.
Yeah.
I mean, when Ash is talking, I'm taking notes. And we've been married 30 years, and she says stuff I've never heard before. I say, you're a dang genius. I said, I'm getting the credit for all this stuff, and you're a genius. And it really is. There's so much. I think, here's a quick statement I had recently. If the person you're married to is not the most interesting person in the world to you, you might be an idiot. Right? I mean, if they're not the...
And it's your choice to think that,
It is.
right? Like,
Like I stopped thinking it, and then I started thinking it, and like I told her, I said, "You keep getting smarter. I'm just recognizing." I think most men, at least from a man's standpoint, would never get the good that's placed in their wives, the genius, because they got their heads up their butts.
can I tell you, just last week, Shawn joined the board of a company. She's a boss, and I've like, I used to be, I don't know, like embarrassed almost. We were sitting in that meeting. I haven't told you this. But she was talking like kind of a lot, like not too much, but like a lot. And I was like, this is our first board meeting. I wanted to like kind of go over and squeeze her leg and be like, but everything she said, everyone would always be like, oh my gosh, I'd never thought about that. And in that meeting, I was like, why was my initial reaction to like, you know, give her
Temper
a
her
subtle
back.
hint? It's like, dude, I gotta let this wild one just run, man. That's my
Yeah.
job is to help her do her thing and amplify it.
One of my
So-
mentors said, "Let Ash talk more. You look better." That's what he said. I was like,
I think so. There's the the logical and the the feeling parts of us and everything. But I think there's the husband and wife roles also, and especially in the South, man, do we have some shoulds and oughts, and our husbands should protect us and should guard us and should help us and should do all those things, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there comes a time whenever there is a place as being a woman that gets dishonored in the fact that they're not seen as being capable of actually carrying certain loads that they can carry. So that was probably something you picked up along the way. Of I don't know, where are you from?
Midwest, which is the same.
The same,
Indianapolis,
yeah,
Very
absolutely.
same. It's very 9 to 5. Husband
Husbands,
should.
yeah. And so I'm quite sure something just from growing up. It's what you learned, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's a protective role, and also a place where you're like almost kind of sort of need to keep them in their place a little bit. And I'm not saying you're a chauvinist at all. You seem like a really nice guy.
Thank you.
I mean, she married
He's a
you.
great guy.
I'm messing with you. But no, I mean, I think that happens. I think John does that sometimes with me, and that's a husband and wife role. And we talk a lot about how different it is for a woman to show up as a businesswoman and as a leader and as someone that has to make decisions that affect a lot of people, and how differently society receives them, their husbands receive them. Parents, my mom and dad still baby, every day my mama is like, calls me and she'll say, baby, do you have to go to work? Oh, I wish you could have the day off. I'm like, Mama, we own our own businesses. I work every day. I was like, I love going to work, but it's like in her head, she thinks like, but you're like, you're supposed to be at home. I mean, your kids are gone, but you could be with the grandkids now. I'm like, I get it, and it's precious, but it's one of those things where it's like we're viewed a lot of times in a construct, and it's not even a feminist thing. It's just a true thing. It's just that we are viewed in a way that we are not really created by God.
And the big transition 5 years ago when Ash took over the companies, one thing we realized is that she had been behaving in a way that was expected of her, but not how she was truly built. And she got liberated. And it's interesting because a huge piece of the liberation had to do with telling me no. A lot. I mean, it changed our lives. After 25 years of marriage, she said, all those things I used to do, well, these things I'm not going to do anymore. I thought, well, dang. Well, one of our mentors has said this. He said, John, this is going to be one of the hardest times in your life, because to be who she's called to be and who she's gifted to be, she's going to have to not do some of the things she was doing. And so think about this. One thing we did well is when our kids left home, they shut down the job that Ash had been doing for 20 years, and there was no more hiring.
Homeschooling.
Being a
being
stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And most ladies never make the transition well from being, if they stayed home, stay-at-home moms, to whatever the next. And 3 years before it happened, I started telling her, so we need coaching, therapy. We need to talk about this thing. We need to work on this. I want to know what you dream of. She said, I don't know. I don't have really any dreams. I do what I have to do, and you do what you want to do. And I thought, that's pretty darn true. And so we began to work on this. And thank goodness when our youngest son left, Ash was ready. She said, okay, I know what I want to do.
And it really, honestly, aligns with the Proverbs 31 woman. It really does. If you really read that, she was a CEO. She was a boss. She was absolutely on the board. I can tell you she was. She was running it. If you really read that in today's terms, you'll see it. And the more that he actually participates, and he has been the most unbelievable husband, partner, lover, friend, but he's also a coach to me, a trusted coach to me. He has so much wisdom, and he has for so many years been around the most amazing mentors. And every week, probably 7-8 hours a week, he still has amazing men that speak into his life. And so for me not to trust, like, hey, if I come up against a problem, or even if I'm like individually trying to figure something out for myself of how I'm showing up, sometimes I give him a little bit of lip back, but usually it's because I'm working it out. Anyhow, I'm still taking that and applying that because it's wisdom that he's given to me, and it's shown me how to really trust that I can be who God made me to be and show up. And my children still need me to do that. They have a great admiration for me. My boys are very much they love their mom for sure. But my grandchildren, they get to see a different version of me than my boys got to see. And I love that. I love that my little granddaughter, when she looks at me, actually, she came to the office not too long ago. I love this. So I come in, I have a cardigan at the office like Mr. Rogers. I don't know why, but I always put it on when I come in. It's like really weird thing that I do. But anyway, she had come in the office that day and I got there and she was gone, but all the sleeves were rolled all the way up, right? And my glasses were on my desk and everything. I was like, what's going on with this? And they're like, oh, well, Lily was here earlier today. I'm like, really? Okay. They're like, she was shrunk darling. And I'm like, shrunk darling. All righty. All right. So what's a shrunk darling? They're like, well, it's a small version of a big darling. I'm like, okay, well, what does the shrunk darling do? And so I'm asking Lily this. So what does a shrunk darling do? And she said, well, everything that big darling does. I'm like, well, what does a big darling do? She said, oh, whatever she wants to do. But I think the thing that she sees though is like people trust
you're darling.
Me. I'm darling.
Yeah.
He's charming.
Yeah.
That's
Nice.
amazing.
That's your grandpa name.
Darling and
Stop.
Charmin.
Oh my god.
And we're a one package thing. When the kids come into our house, it's darling charming.
Yeah.
Darling charming. But anyhow, what she sees is that I'm a trusted person, that people rely on me to make decisions for them all day long, and that I'm kind to them, and that I'm patient with them, and that I have an open door rule that like I'm always available to the people. Now that can get crazy for me, but it happens that way.
Yeah.
And so she gets to see that, and I love that because I was very tense, I think, with the children, with the boys, whenever I was trying to school them and everything. I was trying to be so serious and so perfect and, you know, make sure I showed up the way that I was supposed to and everything. And I was doing what I think others expected of me and my personality, how I was showing up. I was not showing up in my true self.
One of the best things I think we could, if you want a little advice about how to build what we've learned over in the last 5 years, we've started having a weekly meeting. That weekly meeting that is so intentional. It's as intentional as any business meeting we have. There's a business book called Rocket Fuel made by EOS, and it's the visionary integrator for a business. Well, we use that in our marriage. So we believe Ash is the integrator of our marriage and I'm the visionary. And so when we have a meeting every week, has the top 5 priorities at the top, then prayers, what we got going. We go through a form and we do it. And so we'll do it in 2 sessions. The first session is details because Ash wants to know details. Who, what, when, where, how, where are we going, how much is it going to cost, all this stuff. And for the longest time, I thought, she's a dream squisher. Every time I try to do something, she's like, how you going to pay for it? Who's going to insure it? I thought, dreams are tender. You're killing me. I said, nobody gets pregnant. I said, nobody gets pregnant without excitement. You're killing mine. I said, we got to get to where I can do it. So we'd go through all the details, but every week we go through the details, and it's really an organized place to have some heated fellowship. We normally rub on that thing. You know what I mean? Because we're talking about the things we need to talk about that's hard. And then the last section of it is vision. And all she does, we change venue, and she says, tell me more.
You change spaces.
Yeah, we'll go to, like if we had it at the kitchen counter on our computers that we do it, we kind of made this form. Then she would say, let's change venue, and we'll go out on the front porch, or we'll go for a walk, or get in the pool. And then she's like, okay, tell me what's on your mind. And all she does is, tell me more. Interesting. I get more excited the more she says it. And I just tell her the dreams I have about anything crazy, whether it's indoor skydiving arena I want to build, or I want to, like not long ago, I said, baby, you need to get your pilot's license. I said, this will be awesome. And I said, and your massage license. That way I could get a massage and you can fly me places. She didn't think it was as great as I did. And I thought leather suit.
Oh,
I thought this thing would be
Wow.
tight, man. A wife that can massage and fly you to a plane. I said, this will be awesome. But
To
I have
say.
plenty of room to say anything I want. So we talk about all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, it's just my spot because most couples, the person that is a visionary and doesn't know what they think till they say it needs a safe place to share it. And if they don't have it with their spouse, they'll find it with somebody.
Oh, they'll do
And
promiscuous
I
visioning.
did promiscuous visioning for years. I would vision with everybody but her because I couldn't stomach her.
And you know
comment.
that's happening whenever the person that is the visionary in the home or someone or is doing that is that when they come home and you're like, hey, how was your day? And they're like, it's all right. It's like, what'd you do today? Well, work. It's like, seriously? I mean, anything happened today? No. And it's not because they don't want to share. It's because they've already shared it. They've already given out all that energy and everything. So he made an agreement with me. He's like, you know what? I'm going to give you first. I'm going to give you when I have something really exciting happen with me or I meet someone or something, I'm going to bring that to you first.
As this
That
hot
way we
potato, I
share
said,
that.
I'm going to hold that thing. No leftovers for you. I said, I'm keeping one, but
So
it's
then,
tough.
right? Then it's my responsibility if my mate is doing that for me, and I'm more serious and kind of a little bit more stoic than him. So my place is if he's going to bring that to me, that's a gift he's given me is to show up and say that's amazing. Like you met who? Or I mean, you just ask questions that bring open endedness. It's like keep going, tell me more, and instead of being like, well. Why didn't you call me when it happened? Or, well, I bet you told somebody else before me. Or just anything that's negative, it just shuts that down. And I was doing it before, not realizing that I was doing it. And I was like, why would I want to take that from him? That is such a gift that I get to have with him. Now, what it showed with us, this is a good one for y'all. I'll give you a nugget. What we learned is I'm a very present voice. He's a very future voice. And
So there's future and present voices. So think about this. A present voice is what is. A future voice is what could be. And I'm always what could be. And if it's exciting enough, I'll work back to the details of what is. She's always what is. And if you show me it's safe, I'll work toward what could be. So we're standing at two sides, hollering at each other, and we have to build a bridge.
right.
And it's very difficult.
So
It takes
there's
intention.
two things happening with that is that we both have an opportunity there to trust each other, right? And so when he is saying what is, instead of me telling him, no, that's not going to happen because we can't afford it and it's not in our schedule and we can't get it into all those. Instead, if I'm creative and I ask questions to allow him to really expound on that, he's either going to say, I can ask a question like, is that something you really would like to do? Should we plan to spend some more time on that? And he goes like, no, I'm just thinking out loud. That gives me the freedom to relax and quit being a jerk about it and thinking that, oh my God, you're going to take all of our money and do all this. It's like we go into these detrimental places in our minds. We assume what the other person's trying to do. He also can then, if he's willing to take my gifts, which is asking very clarifying questions, is to
Penetrating questions. Seeming like they're on purpose hurtful, but they're not. They're helpful. They just come across sometimes like fastballs.
I just keep my pencil sharpened. But whenever, if he trusts me, then he understands, like, if I say, hey, would you like us to spend some time planning on that? Can I ask some clarifying questions? That means he's now trusting me to say, yes, you know what? That'd be good for you to ask me some good questions, to challenge it, to kind of to see if there's any holes there. But if we don't trust each other in those giftings, then he would assume that I'm just nagging or just beating him down. And I would assume you're going to tank us and you're just aloof and you don't have a clue of what's going on. And there we stand. Right? So which one would we rather be?
Dang. Taking care of your health is not always easy, but it should at least be simple. And that's why for the last, check this out, babe, 4 years,
Jeez.
we've been drinking AG1 every day, no exceptions, home or on the road. We take it. It's just one scoop mixed in water once a day, every day, and it makes me feel energized and focused. And that's because each serving of AG1 delivers my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre and probiotics, and more. It's just a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple.
I like to drink AG1 first thing in the morning, which I learned is recommended for optimal nutrient absorption. Before the kids are awake in the morning, I fill up my shaker with extra cold water, add 1 scoop of AG1, shake it up, and I'm ready to go. I've been really trying to stay consistent with this, especially since we've been getting less sleep these days with a new baby.
Same here, same here. I love the extra boost of energy and focus it gives me. AG1 is an easy way to make sure you're getting all of your daily vitamins without having to take a bunch of different supplements and pills. As parents of 3 little ones, we're all about convenience and convenience of health, and AG1 really does make it easy to get what your body needs fast.
If there's one product I had to recommend to elevate your health, it's AG1, and that's why I've partnered with them for so long. So if you want to take ownership over your health, start with AG1.
Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 and K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/couplethings.
That's drinkag1.com/couplethings. Check it out. We can take a lot from that conversation right there.
So plan, provisional, and promise.
Yeah.
That's the
I
story.
speak in promise and I hear in promise. If you say something to me, it is what is.
That's
You
me.
have to tell me it's something different for me to believe
Plan is
differently.
we want to go there, but we're not sure how. Provisional, No idea is a bad idea. Let's brainstorm.
So you can imagine if you don't know that about each other, if he's talking and I hear in promise, but he's speaking in provisional, I'm assuming everything he's saying is what we're doing. And there's been a time in our life when I've been doing that. I've been trying to align things, getting it all set up, setting aside the resource, doing whatever it was. And he comes out and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, what you said. He's like, I was just talking.
I was just brainstorming.
Right? And then I'm just like, oh my God, I want to kill you. And then the other side of, so we have learned that it is so important. Now, when I speak promise, if I speak, he absolutely knows when I say it.
If she's thought about it, like
just
she
what
comes
is.
with an idea, this thing ain't half baked. She's been thinking about me. I don't know what I'm going to say till I say it. I'm surprised as she is. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I thought that. That was awesome, wasn't it? Sometimes I'll take notes on myself because I didn't know I was going to say it. Because I don't think about stuff. It goes straight from like my brain to my lips. Hers, she thinks on it a long time. And so how do you process decision making? See, my process is gather information and talk about it, get alone and tell in my heart whether I've got peace or concern about it. And sometimes it's like, peace, concern. And so that drives her crazy.
Like Wayne's World. Like,
Then once I get to peace, I come back to the world with a message that we can speak on, and it's pointed. She doesn't do that.
I have to be able to ask questions, gather data, take it, compare it to past data, like what historical. What happened last time, how much did it cost last time, how much time did it take, all those different things. And then I need to think about it, and then I can come and bring that and have clarified vision to align with his vision. Now, when we do that on our projects, we're unstoppable. We're absolutely
We put our hands on
unstoppable.
something, say amen,
It's
that thing's
frightening
going
to
to
people.
move.
They're like, oh, dang, they're here again.
Here's what
When
I
we
said.
don't
I don't
do
know.
that, they're like, oh, dang.
Can I say stuff that ain't politically correct? You can edit it out. But I said, we're like a dang gay couple. Gay couples are on the same page. Two guys working hard on something. I'm like, we're like two guys. I said, we're killing it. We're on the same page and we're getting
I don't know
stuff
how that
done.
one's going to play out.
But it is true. Most husbands and wives are not on the same page. Like Ash needs something. I got you. What do you need? I got it. We're so fast at handing the baton back and forth and understanding where the other person's going. We're aligned.
But the same page you end up on is a different page than each of you started off
That's
on.
right.
Yeah.
John has his page, Ash has his page. It's amazing when you view marriage as that type of team where it's
Right.
like, oh, wait, she contributed the logistics, I contributed the
That's
vision.
right.
Now we're freaking
Well,
grooving.
yeah, imagine the two of you on either side of a bridge, right?
Yeah.
And if you've got the person that was the visionary, and they jumped over the doggone crevice, and they got over there like, come on. And the one that's very present is like, you're going to have to build me some steps to get over there. But the beauty is that you're both standing at the same end of the same bridge. You just got to figure out how do you communicate well enough with each other, trust each other, and see each other for who they really are to build that bridge.
And if you don't when I first, Ash took over all our money, I handled the money after we reconciled because I didn't trust her. But then finally I got the point, and I was like, she needs to do it. She had the gifts, but I was too hard-headed to do it. I think I'm going to be begging this lady for saw blades, because she could control me one more dang way. But it wasn't like that. She's like, I'm on your team, and I want to help you. I'm not going to poop in the pool we're swimming in. I'm going to try to help you get where you want to go if you get out of the way. God, I should have done it sooner. I wasted a ton of years.
I'll give you guys a little bit of a chuckle. Andrew and I we'll have fun talking about this afterwards and figuring out how to best go through those conversations. But I don't want to say our struggle. It's not a struggle. It's comical. But I'm the dreamer. I'm the one who's like, I say it before I've thought it through, but I just like future fun ideas.
Sounds
all
so
these
confident
things.
too, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. But what's scary is if I say something, I'll forget about it immediately. Because like there are so many things that I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then in my mind, I'll go through it. I'm like, not worth it. Give it 48 hours. It will be up and running. And I'll be like,
baby.
oh my
we
God.
bought the house you talked
I'm
about.
like,
babe.
why
It's
is
done.
there a website with this title on it and it's live? He's like, well, you said it. And I'm like, okay.
Yes, I'm
let's
not
work
very
backwards.
good. I'm not a very good legit. I'm just like, all right, let's go, baby.
Perfect.
Well, it's like you said it. That means that obviously it's what you
Yes,
want, right?
which has ended so beautifully for so many things. But some other things, I'm like, take it down right now. We're done. We're not doing this.
Good thing is you hadn't said, we say there's two kinds of people. There's make the decision and options open.
Yeah.
Let me share. So this is, if you're Myers-Briggs, it's the difference in a J and a P, a judger and a perceiver. So the options open, which I am, gets ready to make a decision. Oh, almost made it, didn't make it. Oh, almost did it again. And I just hold it off. And she's going nuts as I almost make the decision. She thinks, we got it. Oh, I didn't. And she's like, get all the information, make the dang decision.
Yeah.
So like airfare is a great example. If we're flying commercial and I'm like, baby, I may want to stop off like in London if we're going to be going to Italy or something. Like, first, it's not stop off. It's not like train stops. It's like countries. And I'm like, well, I got this person, I bet. And so she'll be like, so what she ended up doing is saying this. I tell you what, the longer you wait, the more it costs. And it's making me angry. So what we're going to do is up to 2 weeks before any trip, you can do all this monkey business you want. But if you ain't gave me the information, I'm making the daggum decision.
Yeah.
And so what we realized is she collects data and wants to make the decision. I keep my options open for as long as I can because something amazing may come up. And it has a lot. I mean, we've had amazing experiences. It's not right or wrong, but you got to know how you process decision making.
Yeah.
Because if not, the people that are closed decision making that get the information and make it feel like the other folks move the goalpost all the time. And that drives them crazy.
Yeah, because and I like to win.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, I like
He
to
wants to
win.
get the
I have
best
winning
deal,
team I like to win. So whenever he moves the goalpost, I'm like, I think I won. I'm like, you mean
You're on the 5.
I
Sorry.
didn't- what?
You're
That's
on the-
not what we're doing. It's like, oh my God, it's defeating. So
So you guys do these weekly meetings. What other cadences or rhythms do you do as a couple?
One thing, we dedicate enough time to planning. Think about how hard it is to plan, honestly. And as couples, I mean, we had no business. Everyone plans. There's documents, there's decisions, there's frameworks, there's timelines, 1, 3, 5, 7 year. And then we go to relationships and we act stupid. So we needed a framework. So what we did is we said it's 5 F's: faith, family, fun, fitness, and finance. And we've kind of created a tool to do this, to go through those. And so once a year, we take and decide the one word that we're going to anchor our year on. This year is endurance. And so it's how we're going to look through everything. Last year was unity. So all year we were looking for a place of unity. So where are you and I on the same page? Because that's the place of power. If not, we just go along. So we do the 1 year, we do the this I believe. We try to understand what one another believes, because your beliefs drive your behavior. If you want to know why you behave like you behave, all you got to do is look at what you believe, right? And then we do a survey that we create, and it's free on our website on the couple section, a 5F assessment. And what it forces you to do is codify where you are. So like if you talk about like, how's our sex life? 1 to 10. 2 is not confusing. We had to do 0 recently. I thought,
we're like, uh-oh.
that thing's in serious trouble. But when what we're trying to do is help. We learned this actually through eating out. So like you go to a restaurant, hey baby, you want to go eat somewhere? She's very decisive. I'm not. I'm the lady, remembering this same kind of. So she's like, where do you want to go eat? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. She's like, okay, great, pizza. I don't really want to go there. How about tacos? Like, pretty soon she's upset again because I won't get to a thing. And so what we started doing is like pizza, 1 to 10, 2, tacos, 4. So anything 6 or better, we're going. So what we realize is you need to codify the things that you believe in. Anything you need to do is start putting numbers to how you're experiencing certain things. How happy are you with our income? 1 to 10. Do you feel like you have enough time with your elderly parents or with your family? 1 to 10. When you start doing this, then we say, like 2 years ago, Ash's family score was very low. And I was like, what's wrong? She said, we're not spending enough time with our elderly parents and the time is limited. I said, well, what do we do? And we came up with a family celebration once a month. So we put these on and her score went up. So what we try to do, if she was a 4, we said, what do we do to make it a 5? So codifying, we speak so subjectively and so little is it objective that we can actually get on the dang same page and do something with it instead of just, feel like, we're talking about emotions and feelings and all kinds of stuff, but we can't figure out what to do with it. You've got to make it actionable.
So when we do that, one of the places that it hits first is our calendar, because we have.
You do that once a year or what? How often do you?
Our calendar?
No, these evaluations like that.
That big evaluation we do at the end of the year for the next year, and then we touch in on it individually. We'll touch in and like keep up, like change anything that has changed. And if there's anything significant, we'll talk to each other about it again. He can always see mine. I can always see his. But
We also built a calendar tool that's more important than like the hardest thing to do is to look for, we think, is annually. It's the number one place that people have trouble as a couple.
Yeah, seeing it all at one time. And so whenever we do the 5 Fs, every one of those actually speak into how you're going to walk that out, right? And so if you're saying, well, fun and family and faith and fitness and finance, like how do those really lay out on your calendar? What does that look like? And so we predetermine, like we're already looking at 2024, like what is our year like for our life, how we want to live according to what we believe God has for us to do, and then we fit work in around that.
So that's our family trips, it's vacations, it's times that we want to be there, it's freedom we need for staycations we do together. All these things, we put all the way we want to live on an annual calendar first that we can measure, and then we fit work between it. And what that's allowed us to do is to, at least when she says we're too dang busy, and we are too busy a lot of times, because I try to put 50 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound sack. I'm trying to make stuff happen. And she's like, it's too far. So we'll know how to back off. Okay, so we need 3 less. I traveled 166 days like a couple of years ago that all these cities were working, and that's a lot of travel. It was too much. I said, okay, well, what's good? Well, we can do 120, and that's probably what we'll do this year is about 120 days of travel. Now, a good bit of that was this year we spent January in Italy for our oldest son getting married. So
That's amazing.
That was a lot of fun.
That was great.
And we had some fabulous meals. But it's just, how do you have these conversations? And you need to write it down. There's nothing better than writing it down. And most people don't. Just pretend you're running a Fortune 500 company in your marriage and write it down.
Well, and then the other thing that we do is we have these weekly meetings that stem off of what we're doing in that big yearly meeting and everything. But we keep those open. So we have pinned tabs. They're our dashboard, of what is it that we agreed to help each other with? What is it that we are responsible for? What is the things that we're dreaming of? So we're always keeping tension and awareness on all of the different documents or any links or anything that we have in culmination of data or information that both of us are trying to share with each
It'd
other.
be as simple as things we want to do at our house. Like we've got one, we
Like
know
an
we want to do
ongoing
this, we want to
list
do
or
that.
something.
So, okay, what are the material types? How are we going to do this? Or it could be as complex, like what are we doing for our grandchildren's future financially? Or how are we going to take this company or this thing forward? Or we're writing a book right now. When do we need to be done with this section? And there's all these pieces. And so how do you discuss them? We know if they're on one spot. Ash keeps this open, and so do I, like it's our dashboard. This list of what we're doing together as a couple. And that's the number one thing. Just do what you would do to run a decent business, and you'll start. I mean, think about it. How many businesses have no meetings?
And we keep everything
strategy.
there.
Yeah.
We have the, access to all the links to all the documents that we need to be able to get to.
We use
in one
Google
place.
Docs for that because it's simple and it's collaborative. She can be on her laptop and I can. And so imagine it may say, okay, we want to do something in the backyard around the pool of this. And then we'll have a link here to either the list or the thing we're talking about. And so on one page, it's got prayer requests, businesses, trips, vision, details, all on one document so we can do it. So it's a master key, honestly. People don't run their marriages like businesses. And I say, marriage is complicated. I mean, nobody fixes their own automatic transmission hardly, and marriage is more complicated than that, right?
For sure.
They take it to the transmission guy, but we just we're going to wing this thing. It's like, whoa, it's pretty brave.
Well, I think because we do that, then we get to marriage it the rest of the time, right? Like we really have the hard conversations, and we discipline ourselves to treat it like a meeting, the business of the marriage, and then we have fun with each other.
The other
we have
piece to
freedom
that
to just enjoy.
is the state of the family. We try to do all of our fussing 1 year.
The big
one day
the big
of the
fussing
year.
is monitored.
Right.
We
We have
act up.
adult supervision. We get a couple of our mentors in the room, and we have lined up an agenda where we're going to talk about all the hard stuff.
With all the kids?
No, it's just mainly us and I say adult supervision because we get mentors because we act like kids in that thing.
Yeah.
But we get like maybe all 5S, we have mentors, and one for faith, one for family, one for fitness, one for fun and finances. And so we'll get them in the room and we'll do this thing called State of the Family. And imagine it's when we're going to put down everything we're going to do for the year. and we're going to have all the conflict we're going to have about it.
This is the moment that if we're going to have big chest bumping moments, I call it, like where you're unwilling. It's like, this is something I firmly believe in, and I don't want to back off of it, and I need to talk it out, and we need wise counsel to come into the room with us. It's not that we can't figure out throughout the year, but it's like sometimes as we're working through it, we realize we keep coming up
We're
on
fixing to
something.
make 20-year decisions. I mean, we're building a campus that will have all these hotel rooms and events. We need a lot of folks looking at this. It's hard to get unpregnant. Every way you get unpregnant is messy.
Yeah.
And so we said, before we get into this, we need a lot of wise people looking at it, right?
But we do bring our boys in now for parts of the conversations that we have, and they can be in any parts of it they want to be in because they're old enough
Right,
now
but
to understand
it's
that.
hard because they also are wondering, like, they don't really want to do what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes they're like, I don't want to do that. I like what you do. I want to do something else. Like, go for it. Great.
Can I ask, I'm just reflecting, you saying you're like little kids in church punching each other, calling each other F word. And now in the next sentence, you're saying that she's the most creative, powerful teammate. What were the milestones? You said it took 7 years.
It took 7 years to get where normal people to get to zero. Not here. This is 25 years to here. We try to put decades in days, but we're still deeply under construction. Right? You got to wrap us in that yellow paper that says under construction. We're not done.
Right.
I mean, we're trying hard, but what some of the big things is trust is the currency of a relationship. If you tell me how you trust, like what you can trust and what things you don't trust, I'll tell you where this thing's going. I mean, we can do business with people with a handshake if we trust them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Wouldn't it be a fault of anyone to say that they're not under construction?
I mean, there's people say that, but I don't know. I mean, I do think so. I mean, I think we're all imperfect in so many ways, and I can still go stupid in a heartbeat, say dumb stuff, but I think we don't do it as much. But yeah, I really do believe only the couples we admire are working their butt off to be great with one another.
Were there milestones of like to get from that pit, the rock bottom to zero even? Was there like breakthroughs that come to mind of like moments of like, and then I trusted her, and then I trusted him? Like, I'm just curious what that's like, because a lot of times it doesn't end up back to zero. They just say, all right, game's off. We're done.
When they start over and then they're surprised they moved to Idaho and their problems in Idaho because they moved there. I mean, we're our problem.
Yeah.
There's no question. If you want to know what your problem is, it's you. Stand in the mirror. I mean, every one of us, right? We've got our own problems. That's what we can truly deal with. But for Ash, I guess the first breakthrough, and I wish I could say something profound, but I found out I said, you're on my team.
Dang.
I said, you actually want me to do good. And when I realized it changed everything for me. I was all of a sudden like somebody flipped on the light. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, why would she want to hurt herself in the first place? Because she's with me. But secondly, she wants my dreams to come true more than she wants her own. And once I realized it, I was like, oh, I was undone.
Because you could see the same thing in two different lights, right? You could see her poking holes in your dreams as like, oh, you just don't want me to dream and you don't want the best for me. Or you could see it as like, oh no, she actually wants to see this work and she's helping me get to the logistics.
And she doesn't want to fuss either.
thing.
And she's willing to even ask the hard questions because of her love for me.
That's a tender thing, that willingness to switch the perspective of like the generosity and like, oh yeah, no, she's doing this out of love. It could so easily flip to like, you just spite me. You know?
Well, that's coming full circle. That's why I asked the question of like choice versus the just, should I always feel it? Is I think you either choose every single day to see the positive, which is she's trying to love me, he's trying to love me, he's trying, whatever. Or you wake up each day and you say, why didn't you get me flowers today? Or why, whatever it is. And I think either builds a path towards you slowly get closer and closer to where you're just enamored with each other through all the flaws. Or you focus so much on flaws.
If you asked me one flaw of Ash, I couldn't give you one right now. No, I'm honest. And I used to say, "Well, you got your dang pencil with you. I can do this." But I'm telling you, she'll say it sometimes, "Baby, what I need to get better at?" I said, "I just don't see that. It's so much good there." But you know, one thing I learned about this is I asked, "Why do I feel fake when I do some things and I feel like I'm operating in faith in other things?" And I asked myself, what's the difference in fake and faith? Because they feel the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's why you do it. Right? It's motives. If I do it because I love, if it's we, then it's motivation. If it's me, it's manipulation. See, the difference in fake and faith feel the same.
Mm-hmm.
But if you say, I'm going to love you because God, he's given me this to love you. That's one thing. Or if you say, I'm going to love you because I want you to do what I want you to do. And his service with a hook. Everything I do for you, you owe me one. And see, fake is we feel fake.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the hard thing when the feelings don't come.
I feel like there's literally a million questions we could ask you guys, and we could keep you guys here for hours. Where can people find more of your amazing wisdom?
Well, there's a couple of places. MarshCollective.com is our website. Redemptification is our podcast. That's gentrification redeemed.
I love that.
I say it's when we believe that there's intended beauty and glory in people and places. So that's two easy places to find us. And then the documentary on our story, a 9-minute documentary, is called Beauty from Brokenness. And it really gives you a deeper dive into really the brokenness we experience and the beauty that came out of that. Practically, it's about a 10-minute documentary. You can see that on our website too, in the About Ash and I.
Do you think eight hours of mentorship a week is too much or too little?
Too little. I mean, think about this. Think about how, honestly, if you're going to, I mean, you've been an Olympic athlete and you've been a professional athlete.
How much did you train?
Tell me the training, tell me the coaching, tell me the detail. I'm playing this thing to win. I want to be do gold medal work. You got to have a lot of intentional training. So I mentor and disciple others and add value to them, but I'm in 7 hours of either coaching, therapy, or work for me per week. Wow. And that's not anything to do with the fitness and all that. That's just in working on, but I'm like a Ferrari, big pit crew needed. Goes fast. Lots of additional help required. And so it is good. Now Ash ladies, really I've had men just, our longest mentor is 28 years. Our second is 25 years. And so how do you find a great mentor? I think people wonder this sometimes, and they're everywhere. I feel like a mosquito in a nudist colony, honestly. There's opportunity everywhere. But what I realize is this, you know how I know? When someone speaks to my heart and not my head, when it's humming inside of me like, oh my gosh, that's for me, I schedule a second time. And then I think there's a confusion. Mentoring, this is my opinion, mentoring is when I share my glasses with you. You can see the projects and the decisions I made in life. Here's the stories. Coaching is when you hold the environment for people knowing the information's in them and you wait for it to come up by asking great questions. Therapy is when you're working with someone's previous trauma, and counseling is when you're working to reconcile people. And I think you need all of them. I really do. Most people don't have, and we use the Enneagram, 5 voices, DNA, and the positivity PQ. We use those 4 things together to help build a composite, low resolution composite of how you're wired, from nature, how God made you, nurture, how your parents raised you, and choice. And just to give you a quick example of this.
You said choice?
Choice. So imagine somebody who's very detail-oriented. They were raised in a family of hippies who were going with the Grateful Dead. They started selling pot at 17. Now, they're very detailed, but they got a little different expression of it than a kid who's very detailed, raised in a German engineering home, went to a German engineering prep school, and now about to go to a German engineering college. And see, that's the difference. It's nature, how God made us. It's nurture, how they raised us, and then the choices we did with it. And those combine together to make the composite of who you and I and everyone listening is. And we've got to work hard on that. It's hard to see yourself. Your eyeballs point the other direction.
Yeah, there's a book that recently came out called Of Boys and Men, and it talks about this the issue of how men are struggling in today's society, which, you know, kind of a tough subject because there's a lot of people struggling, but men are like, you know, high imprisonment rate, suicide rate, all these things. And the author brings up this concept that men have a higher degree of influence, but they also simultaneously are more easily influenced, which is powerful when I think about it. Cause like, man, 8 hours to get poured into positively and steered in the right direction by, you know, coaching, mentor, whoever, for someone who has a high degree of influence, like turns that around and then influences others, is like, let's do more of that. More people need to be more thoughtful, more humble in seeking advice.
And there's so many older people that what happens, I mean, think of the men that are not being tapped.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my mentors is 83. Not many people call him.
Yeah.
But I do. And so we need to look at this older generation and say, man, one day somebody's going to close the library on all the information they know.
Dang.
There's no more access to the library.
Gosh, but that's what gets me pumped about marriage too, is because like you could have ended up staying with meth. You know what I'm saying? The whole thing could have ended in a train wreck. But
sure.
gosh, you
and
stuck.
Our kids and our grandkids. I mean, it would have devastated a generation. You know,
It's amazing, and I think that's a story. I think everyone has a potential to do what you guys have built.
100%.
Today we've talked about how you have worked on redeeming relationships and marriages. Love your work there. For those listening who want to find out more about these two, they do incredible work. We'll link some resources down below. Unfortunately, we didn't. I think we're an hour and a half in. We didn't talk as much about your work that you're doing outside of that, which is redeeming cities, which is awesome. But maybe there's a part 2 in store. I mean, this was a enlightening conversation, so I really appreciate you guys.
No, it's awesome. Thank y'all for having us.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Y'all are
Thank
cool
you.
folks. We love hanging out with cool folks. We hope they rub off.
Oh man, gosh.
We've
glad to know
learned
you
a
guys.
lot today.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Oh,
One of my favorite interviews, hands down.
It's good stuff.
nice. That means we got to hang out.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
got to come to Hopalika.
Hope
We say put the cookies on a low shelf where everybody can get to them. Just make this thing easy. Why make it complicated? You
I
know?
will say one thing Andrew told all of us coming in today was to get ready for the best one-liners. And you lived up
Mosquitoes
to
in a
it.
nudist
I love
colony.
Ash says
Mosquitoes in a nudist colony.
Yes. She said he speaks bumper sticker.
I love
Yeah,
it.
I said I speak bumper sticker because they stick.
Well, they do.
You know, I think of things, if they're memorable and portable, we can actually take them with us. And it's the way I learn. I want something simple enough that I can hold on to, profound enough that it'll actually make a difference. And I care deeply about that, honestly.
I need to go back and take notes on this episode. Dang,
Yeah.
this was good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all
John.
guys.
Hopefully it makes you laugh some too.
Yeah.